Hey everyone. Tonight is December 11th. It's just after 6:30 and I want to get into video 3 that we did in August of 2023. So when you're listening to this labor law, there was 4 videos and this is where we were trying to educate active workers to listen to the message of what they were being told by the Municipal Labor Committee leadership was incorrect. And yet still today there's an MLC meeting and Harry, Arthur Chiliotis from CWA 1180. A couple of people are spreading still misinformation about what a union does and who they represent, and about the bill that we have as New York City retirees in to protect us. So as you've all heard me say, absolutely, unions do not represent current retirees. In every collective bargaining agreement, if you go to like Article 1 or Article 2 is the very first page of the contract, it tells you who that contract covers. And it also describes the employee. Retirees are not employees. We are not in unions. And the union collective bargaining agreement does not cover you. You don't vote on it. So it can't cover you. And it's been long held in court, no matter how many times Henry Garrido likes to say it. Unions do not represent retirees, but they had a solemn oath to promise to protect retirees' benefits and protect them from what they knew should have been a vulnerability. Labor leaders from our generations understood that retirees were vulnerable, that they didn't have representation, that they had to protect what they had, because if they opened Pandora's box like these knuckleheads did, we'll be exactly where we are today. This morning I did a video and I posted it up on YouTube. I don't know if I put it up on all the other social medias. I'll check later on. Otherwise, go to our channel. You can click subscribe and you'll see the video that I put up from going over a letter that Henry Garrido put out to all active workers and retirees, where it's full of misinformation and basically blaming the retirees for their litigation for putting them in the situation that they're in today. They are the ones in the Municipal Labor Committee, this umbrella organization, that negotiated away healthcare. Every time they had to do a savings agreement or they wanted to get raises, find funding for their collective bargaining, rather than telling labor relations, Bob Lynn, Claire Levitt, Renee Campion, to go fly a kite, whenever they said, we need more healthcare savings, you've got to give us back stuff. See, you guys mostly thought that every time a copay came along, it was because the insurance company was just being, greedy bastards. It wasn't. It's not the insurance company imposing them. It is the Municipal Labor Committee that was negotiating these on you. And every time the city said they wanted money, they all clamored together, kind of like a Stockholm syndrome, where they were trauma bonded to their abusers. And that's the city saying, hey, listen, I need more money. You got to give me some stuff back. Where's that savings going to come from? Our members and our retirees will pay that. They did this. And I have to keep saying this because people don't understand. Like, there's a question here today that her husband is retired in New York City Police Department. We don't like this $15 copay. Well, Roseanne, we don't like it either. But the Municipal Labor Committee voted on this. Your union didn't support that, right? The PBA didn't support that. But there are many unions that did. And because of this weighted voting structure that you've heard me talk about for 4 years now in the Municipal Labor Committee, the 2 largest unions are doing this. Why all the other unions don't basically say, we're not coalition bargaining with you. We are not giving you our bargaining rights. We are not allowing you to diminish our health care or pass costs on to us. This copay that Roseanne is talking about right here, that is a premium transfer. It is a pure premium transfer. And what do I mean by that? Well, making that pretty simple. What I mean by that is the city of New York wants to try to pass premium onto you, right? They want to charge us for premium, us for healthcare. And the unions keep saying, as being told again today by like the teachers union, premium free, high quality healthcare. Well, Medicare Advantage isn't high quality. It's premium free mostly, but it's not high quality. And while they think they've customized it and made it special, it's not. And instead of paying a small premium spread across the board where it might have been minimal, they start doing this. adding copay. So the active workers, what you've been seeing, or the under 65 retirees, you've been seeing increased copays on the HIP HMO, which is the benchmark. You've been seeing narrowed networks. If you're up in the Bronx, like Maimonides came out of the preferred network for hospitalization, narrowed network of providers. You could only use certain urgent cares, and you could only use certain places for radiology. That wasn't the insurance company that did that. That was the Municipal Labor Committee that negotiated it. Hey, yeah, we could do this. That's exactly what they did. Our generation didn't negotiate away our healthcare benefits, and we sure as heck didn't do it for a raise. And we were a little bit more militant than some of these unions today, because we understood that we had a value that was worth fighting for. So I'm sorry, Roseanne, about that. We are still fighting that case in court, and I have no idea how that's going to go. But I don't control that. This organization doesn't control that. So it's extremely, extremely frustrating that we have to keep seeing this. These unions, including Chiliotis, they know exactly how retirees got screwed into our current situation. And Arthur is one of the more militant guys in the Municipal Labor Committee. He's there with Gloria, which I don't understand how the two of them could be there at the same time. And he's also arguing that our bill is illegal. Like, he should know this. He likes to compare our healthcare bill, Intro 1096, to pension legislation. Completely different, has nothing to do with pensions. His argument today was that you don't want to put healthcare in the hands of the federal, of the state government or legislature. Well, Arthur, this is the trouble with you not understanding how things operate. The legislature legislated 12-126. The legislature gave municipal workers Medicare so that when they retired, they had Medicare benefits. They created a supplement. This is how this was done. And why should you really worry about the legislature reducing your benefits when the Municipal Labor Committee is doing it and you're part of it? They think that maybe because they're in control of it, or they're part of the watering down of the benefits, or keep capitulating to the city. It's this concessionary bargaining practice. This is absolutely horrible, and I just don't understand why they do it. But they do. They don't fight back. And that to me is disappointing. Henry's email today, you got to go watch that video from this morning. It's disturbing. And I highlighted it. You can see it on YouTube. It's frustrating. I want to get into video 3 because it's another 12 minutes long, just like yesterday's video. And I want you to listen to this video to understand, again, we're bringing up Pittsburgh Plate Glass. It's that case that we keep going back to because it was landmark decision when Medicare came about, and this company was then going to withdraw their healthcare benefits, and the union thought it could negotiate for retirees, and learned that they could not, that whatever was in place had to stay in place. Now, like our Intro 1096, we keep saying it preserves a floor. That's all it does. It doesn't diminish your benefit. The unions are free to build upon it. It just preserves what's been in place for 60 years and doesn't allow it to be diminished, but it welcomes the unions to build upon it. And they should be happy that they have a floor to build upon, because if we left it in their hands, they would keep diminishing that benefit. I just don't understand why they don't believe that, why they don't support it. But again, the lawyer for the Municipal Labor Committee, Alan Klinger, today said that the bill does not violate collective bargaining, but what it would impair with their ability to bargain our benefits away, technically. They know that our healthcare has a value. Hey, if we can't change the plan design, that means we can't change the copays. Mark my words, today is December 11th at 6:42 p.m. Eastern Time. If that passes and they're able to continue to do that, what they're going to do, if they can't charge premium on us for our senior care supplements, they are going to keep increasing the copays to the point that there is no premium. Because we've seen that there's a direct result, which every time when 2022, when they went to implement the copays the first time, the premium for senior care dropped. When they did this again, the renewal rates show that there would be a lower premium for senior care, meaning the cost of the plan, if the $15 copays were introduced. So I want to go back to Labor Law 101. video 3. I'm going to load it right now. I think you'll really enjoy this one. Again, you hear the justices talking, and I also do a little explanation as we're going along.
Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. This is the third installment on the Labor Law 101. We are discussing the Pittsburgh Glass case and how it correlates to us. In about 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, we shared with you a video that we had made about the MLC attorney Alan Klinger admitting that the legislation isn't illegal and that what it does was putting pressure. He said it's not illegal by itself, but what it would do is put pressure on the city, because if it had to pay money towards those retiree healthcare, it would be less than it would be spending on active workers. Now, if that's not a union leader or a union attorney, labor chair, how he's a labor chair appointed, and yet he represents multiple unions at the same time. And then if you start to look at all the LM2s across the city, you'll start to see how many millions of dollars this firm makes in representing unions. The MLC paid him over $800,000 alone last year. The United Federation of Teachers was over 1.1 million when we stopped looking. DC 37, same kind of the numbers. You just got to keep looking through these LM2s on the Department of Labor website to see what this firm makes by basically pitting one union against the other and then pitting them all against their retirees. This has to stop. This is not what labor is about. We're better than this. But I want to show you that one of the things that he said was Intro 1099 by Councilman Barron that would require the city to offer a Medigap plan, are plans that cost about $200 a month. Unlike your plans, the active worker plans that cost about $920 a month for a single plan, if for an individual, and about $23 or $2,500 a month for a family plan. Medicare retirees are the cheapest cost to the city, okay? He told the MLC leaders that our plans, that the bill that would offer us a Medigap plan was not really illegal, but what it would do is put a financial burden on the city, because if the city had to pay money for us, it was less it was paying for you. So basically, you're arguing against your own people, but you're not taking up issue with how the city's spending the rest of its money. You're okay with the city spending money on healthcare for high school students for mental health, or putting in mental health for LGBTQ, or putting in healthcare for sex workers, or putting in healthcare for asylum seekers. But you're okay with stripping away healthcare and diminishing healthcare for a former union brother and sister. This is what we're not understanding. Your union leaders are telling you that Medicare Advantage is not a diminishment because it gives you more, it's enhanced benefits. What does that mean? Can you define that? Let me tell you what that means. They basically gave you a gym pass or rides with Access-A-Ride. And if you're reading the Daily News today, you're realizing how horrible Access-A-Ride is, that you have to wait hours and hours to get these rides. We took a group of 70 retirees to Washington, D.C. One of the retirees that sat next to us had been trying for an hour to get Access-A-Ride to pick her up, and we were still on the train in New Jersey. And they kept canceling on her and wouldn't show up. We had to Uber her home. That's not the way this should work. So you're giving me a perk, which isn't really a perk. It's a really bad benefit, and telling me it's enhanced and I'm supposed to accept that in replacement of you diminishing my healthcare access to doctors and specialists around the country, and then forcing me to undergo prior authorizations because you want my value for your raise. The Transit Workers Union, MTA, TW100, the MTA told TW100, you give us that Medicare plan for those retirees and stick your retirees into Medicare Advantage plans, we'll give you a raise. And they did. I bet you don't know that, do you? And this is where we are. I want you to listen, and then I want to connect you to the next case and closing up Pittsburgh Glass so you could hear what we hear. This is the video that we filmed last week.
County with someone there, legal, maybe Alan, just explain it in further detail and expound upon how it's going to affect collective bargaining rights.
It freezes health, it freezes health benefits to where it was in December 31st.
That's not true. Our legislation from Councilman Barrow in Intro 1099 requires that the city provide a supplemental plan, a Medigap plan, that was like what was in effect on December 31, 2021. It doesn't freeze healthcare. It doesn't freeze collective bargaining or negotiating. It specifically states that the city must provide a Medigap plan like what was in effect on December 31.
It obligates a Medigap supplement plan without saying how it would be paid for.
And that's not true either, because since 1967, when 12-126 was legislated in the administrative code, the city has been paying for Medigap plans or any cost to a Medicare retiree. Why? Because the city is required to pay up to the HIP HMO rate, and our Medigap plans are under the HIP HMO. That's why the city has been paying for Medicare eligible retirees out of the general budget. This does not get paid by the unions, and it does not get paid out of the stabilization fund. Unlike the teachers, DC 37, fire, police, etc. Their premium differences between HIP and GHI are paid out of the stabilization fund. Medicare eligible retirees don't get paid by the unions, and they don't get paid out of the stabilization fund.
And concern is that the city will then adversely impact other aspects of healthcare for actives and others because of that.
Alan, so the one line in the legislation that speaks to it not doing that. What do you think the effect of that line?
And what he's referring to is the second line of the legislation. So the first line is a two-line legislation. The first one says the city must provide a Medigap. The second one says that nothing in this bill prevents the unions from collectively bargaining for their unit members, right? We're not a unit member. We're not a union member. We don't collectively bargain. They can't collectively bargain for us. Our bill does not affect them. They can negotiate anything they want. Why? Because they collectively bargain. So this representative from the PBA is actually asking, well, what are you making out of this bill? The second sentence says it doesn't do that. What do you think the effect of the line is? That's the reference. Wait for the answer.
It says it will not affect collective bargaining. Is that throw away the line?
Yeah, but it can't by itself determine what happens for actives, but what it'll do is put enormous financial pressure on what the city says to us it's willing to pay for actives if they have to pay so much more for retirees.
And right there it is. This bill cannot affect the actives. Coming from the attorney for the MLC, Alan Klinger. He represents the MLC, the United Federation of Teachers, some unions in DC 37, sanitation. There's so much conflict going on right here. It's unbelievable. But he just let it out of the bag. The MLC, the active unions, do not collectively bargain for current retired persons. This bill cannot by itself affect them, but what it does do, in his opinion, is that because the city is paying for us, Medicare retirees, the cheapest people the city has to pay for, it would mean that it would want to pay for them less because their plans are so much more expensive. And the funny thing is, I didn't even have to talk. The other me said everything. And that's exactly the point. And yet you guys aren't listening. Active workers do not represent active unions. Unions do not represent current retirees. You cannot collectively bargain for us. And no, our bill is not illegal. Alan Klinger is just saying that how he's interpreting how it's illegal or how it would interfere with collective bargaining is because if the city is taking its little pot of money and it's spending on retirees that actually earned it, it's less that they're going to spend on them. Because what will happen is, just because this is happening to us today by you, don't think this isn't going to happen tomorrow. After you're gone, if Mr. Klinger is still there, he'll be selling you out to the next generation. This isn't the way labor should be behaving. So now let's go back and finish the labor case, because I want you to actually see that.
Now, to say that these retirees who have no bargaining strength whatsoever, who are not competing for jobs, they're not competing for wages, that they present such a threat to these active employees who have the power to shut down this operation anytime to get their demands, and say that these retirees threaten them so much that the actives have to have control over their benefits, I think becomes almost an absurd argument. And I don't think that Oliver was intended to go that far at all. In no case, prior to this one, has the board ever come to this court or any other court and made the argument that a union has the exclusive right to represent people who are not in the bargaining unit. And the board admits here that retirees are not in the bargaining unit. In fact, the board has uniformly excluded them from all bargaining units, saying they do not have a community of interest with the active employees and probably are not employees at all. They've excluded them. They excluded them here. They set up a unit of only active employees. They did not include these people. It seems to me that there is one aspect of the act, that is the industrial democracy aspect, which I would like to discuss next.
And there you go. It's absolutely absurd that a union would raise the issue of a retiree, that they would have to control a retiree's healthcare benefit, someone that's not even in their unit. That is dangerous. Guy Farmer was a labor attorney, labor representative, represented many unions and also in the NLRB. So by listening to the MLC argue that you're taking control over the active workers are taking control over retiree healthcare benefits because it would in some way impede them is a farce. And I think I've rested my case. Have a great night, everybody. And just remember, keep coming back. We're going to keep proving this, even now going into local cases, as well as affidavits filed by OMLR. OLR's former name was Office of Mayor's Office of Labor Relations. Affidavits, as well as Bob Lynn's own words, the former Director of Labor Relations, as well as OCB cases, Office of Collective Bargaining. Bringing it home. Have a great night.
So it's really interesting going back and listening to some of those court cases, because this never gets old for me. I love labor law, and I really do appreciate listening to history, because this is our history. And yet to recognize that there's 100 union leaders in the city of New York, that most of them, 98% of them don't understand their own history or their own labor law. That's the sad part about this whole thing, because they didn't have to be in this mess. They could have been more militant about protecting their benefits, not concession bargain away their health care, keep passing on costs to their employees. I mean, if you look at the pattern that DC 37 brought in the last time, you're looking at 3% raises. A 3% raise doesn't really get you, anywhere. And that's the frustrating thing, that if in like these times, for example, where you have potentially congestion pricing coming on board, and you have copays starting in January, and now more. If the MLC keeps doing this and they don't take a position that they're not going to be taking a position against passing on costs to retirees, I don't care how many times Michael Mulgrew or Henry Garrido will keep saying it has to be premium free, high quality healthcare. Well, it's premium free, but if you tax the hell out of everybody by passing on high deductibles and high copays, what's the point of saying premium free, high quality healthcare? Because you're still charging people an arm and a leg, basically, to use their healthcare. Now, what's happening is it's disparate, right? Because younger people don't go to the doctor much, but older people do. So you're basically penalizing people who are older and have more health needs than the younger crowd. And they don't see that either. They figured, oh, well, we'll just do this now. And then by the time, we're at 65, 75, 85, 95 years old, we'll worry about that then. But see, today's retirees, these people, you got Michael Mulgrew making more than the president of the United States of America, Henry Garrido making more than the president of the United States of America, Harry Nespoli. Most of us, the retirees of yesterday, don't make that kind of money. So think about that for a moment. That's pretty shocking. And they don't care. They don't see a current retiree. And I keep saying the same thing over and over again. A top paid police and firefighter in 1979 was $15,000. They took a 50% pension, 50% pension, half pension. Compounded with cost of living adjustments over the decades, their pensions are still only $26,000 today. That's not a lot of money. So let's say their income is double that with their Social Security. You're putting a $15 copay on them. It's going to kill them. I have a lady that contacted me. She's a DC 37 retiree. Her pension's $13,600. This is scaring the death out of her because she is afraid she'll never be able to afford to go to the doctor. Now, in EMS, we've seen these kinds of things where we've walked into apartments, little old ladies that don't really have a lot to deal with, and they don't have a lot of income, and they have cat food in their house, in their pantry, and that's what they're eating. And that's disgusting. That should not be retired unionists of today. Like, they fought to be able to have health care and the benefits that they earned while they worked for decades serving the city of New York. And then to hear city council members say to me, even yesterday, oh, Marianne, that bill wasn't introduced right. It was discharged from the floor. Well, that's because LegDoc is lying to people, telling the council members that our bill's illegal. It's not illegal. And a city council member shouldn't be telling me my bill's illegal. That's for a judge to say. Our legislation is Intro 1096. The one that we discussed in this video was last year when they gave us a hard time about basically the full version of the bill that we have today at 1096. We slimmed that bill down to 2 sentences just to call their bluff and see what they would do. And the first sentence of that bill last year from 1099 that Councilman Barron introduced said that the city must provide a supplemental plan. The second sentence said nothing in this bill will impair the unions from collectively bargaining. And yet they still stopped it. They still made the argument. Henry kept saying, it doesn't say how it's funded. Alan Klingard in this video said, well, it doesn't say how it's funded. You're a lawyer, man. The law says the city will pay the full cost of health care up to the HIP HMO for every employee, retiree, and their dependent. It does say how it's funded. It's like you look at these people sometimes and you're like, how do you even exist? How do you not recognize that the law says? And we were literally adding under that law where it said the city will pay the full cost of health care, a little letter E, and it had 2 sentences. It was still under 12-126 E. This made no sense, the arguments that they put up. And the city council, as disappointing as they are, is how many of them are attorneys, right? You have Tiffany Caban, Shekhar Krishnan, Sean Abreu, Ina Vernikov, Julie Menon, and that's just off the top of my head. This defies logic that there is no one that's going, hey, time out, guys. This doesn't make any sense. They're not in a union. They don't vote on these contracts. Their benefits are being diminished under them to finance active workers, and we're not going to stand up for them? No one has a spine in this. And they're totally fine with having us just fight for ourselves and protect ourselves. This is the part it just defies logic. And this is their healthcare, right? The mayor's healthcare, all of the commissioners' healthcare, the deputy mayor's healthcare, the city council's healthcare. This is their health benefits. And yet they don't care. So I'm going to wrap this up here. That was video 3. There's only one more. I do have a meeting tomorrow, so I can't do a 6:30. So let's see. Tomorrow I will come and do this I'll probably do 5:30 tomorrow. So if you want to watch the 4th video with me, I'll do that at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. And hang in there, because I just don't see that. I just don't see many people in this city council having a conscience. And I don't see Eric Adams willing to sit with me either. What I would love to see is I'm able to have a presentation made at the Municipal Labor Committee, but I don't think they'll listen to me either. I mean, just this week, I've got some of the unions already bashing our videos because they just don't like us telling the truth and educating their active members of what they're doing. So it's extremely frustrating that this is today's union leaders, and it's concerning that the labor movement is moving backwards rather than moving forward, and that they're capitulating and concession bargaining all the time, that they don't organize together like the retirees did and form one big retiree coalition, and fight back, because that's really what they can do. There should be no reason why they do this. That email that Henry Garrido put out it's absolutely atrocious. He should never have said the things that he said. And had he been a better union leader and a better negotiator, he could have negotiated better benefits. They didn't have to milk money out of the stabilization fund for their welfare funds. They could have negotiated that on their own for each individual union. So anyway, all right, it's 7:05. Have a great night, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30 for video 4 and take your questions on these videos for labor relations. Then I'm going to get into, I did mention in this last video, affidavits. I'm going to talk to you about Arvid Anderson and James Hanley, who was from Office of Collective Bargaining and Office of Labor Relations. And then I'm going to start getting into some cases from the Office of Collective Bargaining to show you how full of crap some of these union leaders are that are trying to tell you that they have the power that they don't. They don't. And Office of Collective Bargaining actually has said that time and time again. So slowly, I'm not going to do these every day. I may not have time to do them all the time, but we're going to try to do as many as we can. And please, if you are a retiree or you're an active union member, please share these videos with your friends. Please subscribe and share them with your active union members, and share them with your active union leaders, your e-boards, because they need to understand what they're not being told, and they're not being told on purpose. So knowledge is power. Don't forget that. Have a great night, everybody.